just a vacation with pay. Ah, the beautiful Alps mit the birds.
Old enough to remember as a child listening to Hitler's speeches over the radio at the Nuremberg rallies. I couldn't understand the words when I was 6 years old, but could easily understand the mood. These memories do come to mind when I listen to one of Trump's rallies, for example. There's some similarity. The worship of the crowds, the very effective use of techniques of manipulation. So, for example, the constant flood of lies and self-contradictions and so on, which is very well designed to undermine the very notion of truth. It disappears. So you just listen to the great leader. Then it's a terrific technique of domination and control. Trump is sometimes, even by experts in the topic, called moving towards fascism. I think, frankly, that gives him much too much credit. Fascism was a serious ideology. I think it's well beyond his ken or concern. This is more like a minor dictator in a small country that's subjected to military coups over the years. There's no conception of introducing real fascist ideology. In fact, in some ways, we're almost the opposite of it. The fascist systems were based on the principle that the powerful state, and under the leadership of the ruling party and the maximal leader, should basically control everything. They should run and control the society, including the business community. We're almost the opposite. It's the business community controlling the government, and any infringement on their power would lead to a kind of confrontation that is almost unimaginable. So he understands how to serve his primary masters, how to keep the adoring crowds under control, but there's no ideology. The ideology is simply me. I'm a megalomaniac, psychopath, and I just want what's good for me. But that's not fascism. It's something pretty awful. So I don't think it's fascism. It's essentially tin-pot dictatorship. And he's desperate and will do anything, almost anything imaginable, to try to keep himself from being tossed out of the White House. How this will eventuate, we don't know, but it's going to be a very difficult couple of months ahead.
See Donald Trump's march towards fascism. We see him leveraging the police state in a way that goes far above and beyond what the Democratic Party uses the police state for. They both use the police state, but Donald Trump uses it for crushing actual dissent. Like, he doesn't even want criticism.
Hitler and Trump are not the same people. The people of Germany elected Hitler. He was going to really blow up the system that that had them in a depression, that lost the war. He was going to be different. He was outside of politics. He was not a politician. And he was all for jobs, 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 jobs.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to go back to work. And autocrats decide that they are the ones and the only ones that matter. and you will live by their will and their edict. There's a very sad moment there where I show a front page editorial in a Jewish weekly in Germany right after Hitler's inaugurated. And this editorial says, yes, he's crazy, but come on, everybody calm down. It's not going to be that bad. You know, we'll get through this. We'll be protected by the Constitution.
Yeah.
And that's a lesson of history we need to pay attention to. Yeah. That if we are sitting around thinking, oh, the special prosecutor will he'll take care of him. He'll be impeached or he'll be whatever. No, not necessarily.
Has killed maybe 100,000 people. It's a pretty significant slaughter. And that's why he's flailing around wildly to find somebody to blame it on. That's why he's using the current opportunity to send quasi-military forces, more or less paramilitary, to set up violent confrontations with Democratic mayors and governors. I mean, there's no precedent for sending militarized forces to control a city in opposition when there's total opposition on the part of the mayor, the governor, the senators, obviously the population. This is treating the country like occupied territory to try, and with a purpose, totally clear purpose of trying to set up confrontations which will somehow save him from electoral defeat. And if there is defeat, he may just refuse to leave the White House, as he intimated in Fox News the other day. In which case, you really have to ask what happens next. Does the military move in and remove him? Or what happens when armed militias start surrounding the White House? We don't know. This is a situation which has never arisen in a functioning democracy.
In the good old days, they used to treat them very, very rough. And when they protested once, you know, they would not do it again so easily. We've become weak. The problem is nobody wants to hurt each other anymore.
And when you see these thugs being thrown into the back of a paddy wagon, rough, I said, please don't be too nice.
These aren't people. These are animals.
And I'll never forget the scene. It's not supposed to be a beautiful scene, but to me it was. It was like a knife cutting butter right through. Long.
You have to dominate the streets. You can't let what's happening happen.
Last week, we were seeing the de-escalation of the violence. We were seeing things calm down, but the intervention of federal officers reignited tensions.
Protesters have been gassed repeatedly, even after our court said not to.
Federal agencies should never be used as your own personal army. Let's be clear, this is not political theater. This is far more dangerous than that. This is an attack on our democracy.
We're doing a great job in Portland.